Fad Diet's Fact or Fiction, and we're probably hosting it. So buckle up because we're going to dive headfirst into the wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world of diets that promise to transform your life faster than you can say kale smoothie. From caveman feast to meat-only madness, we're going to separate the science from the fleeting fads. I'm here to announce and introduce our star of the show, Lori Lee. She's our nutritionist from the science department. She's seen it all, diets that soar to stardom and others that just vanish like a tumbleweed in a desert storm. So she's going to guide us through the maze of keto, intermittent fasting, detox, paleo, Mediterranean diet. Is it fact? Is it fiction? Lori has the answers. But this isn't going to be a lecture. It's going to be a conversation. So if any of you tried the diets, did it work? Leave you hangry? Share your stories, your questions, even your secret smoothie recipes. This is your chance to weigh in. Lori, as a nutritionist who's navigated the ever-changing tides of diet trends, how would you define a fad diet?
Thanks, Melissa. The term fad diet is not a scientific term, but refers to a popular or trendy short-lived eating pattern. It often claims to provide quick fixes for long-term problems such as obesity. Fad diets can be distinguished from healthy, balanced diets by several key characteristics. And as you can see, according to this diagram by Tarim et al. Of 2022, there are 8 characteristics. First is the promise of rapid weight loss or immediate improved health. So many fad diets claim you can lose significant weight in a very short frame of time, such as losing 10 pounds in 1 week or curing asthma in 30 days. These promises are often unrealistic and can result in water loss or muscle loss rather than actual fat loss, develop an unhealthy obsession with food, and even increase one's risk for digestive disorders. Rapid weight loss can also lead to dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and metabolic slowdown, making long-term weight management and eating healthily even harder. In addition, fad diets often lack guidelines for physical activity. Sustainable diet plans usually integrate both diet and exercise. However, many trendy diets focus solely on food intake, ignoring the crucial role of physical activity. Without exercise, weight loss may be slower, muscle mass may decline, and overall fitness, wellness, and cardiovascular health may not improve at all. Next, fad diets place an emphasis on short-term changes rather than sustainable, lifelong habits. Short-term diet plans might focus on drastic calorie cuts, detoxes, or 30-day challenges, which are not intended to build healthy behaviors. True health improvement relies on habits that can be maintained for the rest of your life. Fad diets may focus on a single type of food or the complete elimination of certain food groups. In fact, some diets encourage eating mostly one type of food, such as high protein only, or banning whole groups such as no carbohydrates. This can lead to imbalances in nutrient intake, boredom with meals, cravings for unhealthy foods and beverages, and nutrient deficiencies, which can harm our health over time. These fad diets usually result in difficulty in maintaining the diet over the long term. Highly restrictive or complicated diets often lead to diet fatigue. People may initially succeed, but soon revert to old habits because the plan isn't practical, enjoyable, or compatible with social situations, making long-term lifetime adherence nearly impossible. Fad diets usually have questionable nutritional adequacy. Many quick fix diets lack important nutrients like fiber, protein, vitamins like vitamin D, or minerals such as iron and zinc. This can result in side effects such as constipation, fatigue, hair loss, weakened immunity, or even more serious health issues over time if the diet is followed over a long period of time.
Now, you mentioned hair loss and weakened immune system. Can this occur due to these fad diets? Why and how can it happen?
Well, as was previously mentioned, fad diets often eliminate essential nutrients such as protein, iron, zinc, and vitamin D. All of these are very crucial for healthy hair growth and proper immune function. Additionally, a rapid weight loss and physical stress of restrictive eating can disrupt hormonal balances, contributing to hair loss. In addition, a deficiency in vital minerals and vitamins weakens the immune system, making it more difficult for the body to fight infections and illnesses. Over time, these restrictive diets can lead to malnutrition, which can further compromise hair health and immune defense. So maintaining an adequate level of nutrients such as protein, zinc, vitamin D, and iron is essential for supporting these vital functions. Now, fad diets typically fail to provide health warnings for individuals with chronic diseases. Some diets are risky for people with diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, or other chronic conditions. For example, extremely low carb or high protein diets may worsen kidney problems or blood pressure issues. Reputable plans always advise consulting a healthcare provider before starting. And finally, fad diets lack scientific evidence supporting their claims for the short and long term. Many fad diets rely on anecdotal testimonies or pseudoscientific jargon instead of peer-reviewed studies. Without solid scientific backing, there's no reliable proof that these diets work or are even safe. And some can even pose significant health risks.
What attracts us to these fad diets?
Good question, Melissa. There are many reasons why people are drawn to fad diets. One common reason is the desire for quick results. Fad diets often promise rapid weight loss or curing what ails us very quickly, which can be very tempting for those seeking immediate changes. These diets typically involve strict rules or restrictions, offering a sense of control and accomplishment, especially for individuals struggling with weight management. Fad diets often appeal to vanity by focusing on achieving a specific body shape or weight rather than promoting overall health and well-being. And additionally, powerful marketing campaigns and, of course, social media trends heavily influence people to try these diets rather than taking a look at the scientific evidence. The simplicity of fad diets with their clear-cut black and white guidelines attracts individuals looking for those easy solutions. Many fad diets make bold claims that can be, very enticing to those of us who are desperate for a solution. And then on top of that, you have celebrity endorsements and personal testimonies that further amplify the appeal of these diets, even without any kind of scientific backing. And then we can't forget social pressure. This can always play a role, as the popularity of fad diet can make individuals feel compelled to join in regardless whether it aligns with their health needs or not. So ultimately, the promise of a quick fix or magic bullet is alluring to anyone frustrated by previous failed attempts at weight loss or improved health outcomes. I remember that too, Brad. Yeah, that Deal a Meal. Yes, by Richard Simmons. I do remember that.
Is that type of diet safe, he asks? He knew a lot of people on it.
Yeah, there were a lot of people on it. Again, it gets back to, if we look at the 8 characteristics, was this something that the individual would be able to live with for the rest of their life? Because eating is something we will do for the rest of our lives. And in order to, whether it be weight loss or just overall health, it's got to be something that we feel that we as an individual are going to be able to handle no matter what situation is put before us. So it really depends on the individual.
How many of you have heard of the keto diet or even tried it? Anyone? That's the next diet we're going to keto into. Oh, Eric. Yes. Please just talk away.
Yeah, I'm on keto right now, in fact. So, although it's a kind of a modified keto because I'm also calorie restricting and exercising. So it's kind of like doing 3 things all at once. But I started it back in mid-February and I went from 223 to I broke 200 at the end of May and gave myself a week off and ate whatever I wanted and ate a lot of over quantity. I had a whole pizza one night and a week off of it, I put 2 pounds back on and then I went right back on the diet and, started calorie counting again and doing keto. And, now I'm down to about 195. And my goal is just to get down to 183 because for my height, that gets me into the healthy BMI range, like right on the edge. So that's been my goal. I think the trick is no matter what happens when I finally get to be off this thing permanently, because it is short term for like maybe a year, is that I'm still going to always have to calorie count. So no matter what you're eating, calories in equals calories out kind of a thing as far as whether your weight is going up or down. So I just have to be cognizant to weigh myself twice a week. And if I see myself climbing up more than 2 or 3 pounds, then to intervene with something to take it back off immediately rather than letting it slowly get out of control again.
So that's the low carb, that's a low carb, high fat diet, and everyone talks about it. So if you're on, and I'm curious how with the low carb and high fat, how do you get the calorie count in there?
Well, I count calories for what I'm ingesting. So basically, I eat whatever meat I want, and then I eat green vegetables, and I assume that all my carbs for the day are going to be taken up in eating vegetables. And then for a snack, every now and then I'll have, cheese and almonds, and that's it. It's like a really straightforward, boring diet. So,
It sounds
like I
it.
said, I'm not following keto strictly because keto might have me eating like higher quantities of fat than I do. But at the same time, it's restricting carbs. I suppose you could call it Atkins instead of keto, but basically, same thing.
Has it helped you stop going into ketosis?
Yeah,
Usually it
I mean,
forces
the
your
moment
body
you
to
cut
burn.
out all carbs except for green vegetables, yeah, you're going into ketosis pretty quickly. Maybe usually what I'll do is I'll not eat anything for a day or two just to get myself into ketosis faster. And, so like kind of like a 48-hour fast. And then after that, I'm trying to keep myself at 20 grams of net carbs a day or less, which is hard to do unless you do what I do. And that's all my carbs are coming from green vegetables. I've got to get my fiber somehow. So,
Amy, how did you do it for 2 years? Wow.
I just did lots of salad, like pretty much what Eric was talking about. And I was just going to type in the chat. I'm glad to hear he's doing vegetables. I know a lot of people who think keto is just bacon and cheese, but that will just destroy you. So yeah, keep up the veggies.
And Lori's going to tell us the real scoop about keto. Fact versus fiction, Lori.
Yeah, so as you all mentioned, the keto diet or ketogenic diet, it really is a high-fat, very low-carb diet by definition. And as we all know, carbohydrates are our main body's source of energy. We break the food that we eat into glucose that then can fuel cells for various functions, particularly our brain. We need those carbs to, keep our brain functioning properly. But if we don't get enough carbohydrates, our body does go into that state of ketosis. And that's a metabolic process where our body shifts from using glucose or sugar as its energy source to burning fat for energy. So possible benefits of doing this include that you're going to burn some fat off your body, which is, one of the main points. In addition, some people have reported appetite suppression as a result of ketosis, or even feeling less hungry while in the state of ketosis, which can be a good thing because this in turn may contribute to eating fewer calories and ultimately weight loss if that's what your end goal is. Now, interesting enough, there are health benefits to going into a state of ketosis, such as managing epilepsy by reducing seizure frequency, as well as helping with type 2 diabetes by helping to lower our blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity. There's even some research that suggests ketone bodies may provide a more stable energy source for our brain compared to glucose, which ultimately could improve our cognitive function. And finally, ketosis may have anti-inflammatory effects in our body, which then could potentially reduce the risk of chronic diseases associated with inflammation. So definitely there's some research out there for some positives related to the ketogenic diet. But as Eric says, and Amy and everybody, this diet is really highly restrictive as it tends to eliminate most of the carbohydrates. So the long term is really the key factor here. As Eric said, that most people just use this in a short term type of fashion rather than making it part of one's lifestyle.
Is there ever a time where we should reduce carbs, restrict them? Why are they needed?
Well, as I mentioned, carbs are really, our main energy source for our body. And so we do need to make sure that we're getting an adequate amount of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, they're very rich in vitamins and minerals. And if we don't get those carbohydrates in our diet, we could put ourselves at the potential for vitamin and mineral deficiencies, unless one, of course, is taking some type of a vitamin mineral supplement.
Now, Eric and Amy mentioned fruits and vegetables are really good to eat in this. What else is good to eat on the keto diet?
Well, I tend to avoid fruits because they have a lot of carbs, a lot of sugars. I mean, if you can have a little bit of fruit, but it's the kind of fruit that's more like berries and stuff. And even then, you've got to be really, really limiting with fruits just because fruits are natural sugar, like
Right.
purified. So that's carbohydrate. That's just glucose.
So like Eric said, there's certain fruits like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries are probably, if one is going to eat fruits, the better types, if you will. And then the low-carb vegetables like spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, bell peppers, asparagus, they're all very keto-friendly options. And don't forget the avocado. Avocado might be a good option too if you like avocados. Just to be careful if you're going to make it into guacamole, what other ingredients get put into there. But certainly, a few fruits. And then, as Eric has mentioned and Amy has mentioned, really focusing in on those vegetables to get the carbohydrates as well as the vitamins and minerals. So just, to kind of wrap it up and move on to the next diet, there's no definitive answer to whether the ketogenic diet might be a fad diet or not, specifically related to weight loss, because it can really depend on a number of factors, such as the actual food choices that, we may be making, whether or not we include exercise and activity, because exercise and activity has to be a part of our life, whether it's for weight loss or for overall improved health. And, like was mentioned, this is a short-term diet plan. So one has to think about whether or not they're willing to do this over a longer term to have the benefits over the long term, or whether one is willing to, go back to their normal way of eating. And just as a reminder that, just like this ketogenic diet, there are several diet trends out there that are also carbohydrate restricted that focus in on the state of ketosis thing. You've probably heard of the Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, the carnivore diet, and the Duquesne diet. They all work on some of the same premises of that state of ketosis. All right, Melissa, what's up next?
What's next is intermittent fasting, the diet that's less about what you eat and more about when you eat or when you don't eat. So picture yourself chowing down on your favorite meals, but only during certain hours, like a foodie with a strict clock. There are several popular methods, which include the 16-8, where you fast for 16 hours and feast for 8, or the 5-2, fast for 5, eat for 2, where you go super light on calories a couple days a week. It's got fans raving about weight loss and mental clarity, but is it science-backed or just hunger with a fancy name? Has anyone tried this diet? Did it make you feel good or just cranky for snacks?
Kind of doing it now. I try to eat. I'm more of like a 20 and 4, 20 hours off eating and 4 hours eating. But I don't feel I get anything from it. It's just one of those things my wife had mentioned, and so I just kind of threw it in as one more thing of tossed into my overall diet and exercise plan right now.
So, Lori, what's the truth behind this diet? Is it a fad?
So again, if we look at a diagram by Tarim, this was a trendy diet. It had a quick rise in popularity. A lot of influencers and authors out there on social media were raving about doing the intermittent fasting. It's kind of considered to have a one-size-fits-all mentality. It kind of simplifies, nutrition by focusing solely on when to eat rather than what to eat. In addition, it doesn't really get you going out there and doing some exercise or activity, which, it really is needed as part of the plan. And, skipping meals may not be sustainable for many people. When you skip meals, you probably feel fatigue. You might experience mood swings. You might overeat later in the day, so you go all day and you don't eat, and then comes 8 o'clock at night and you just raid the refrigerator. And then it may interfere with your social activities. In our society, a lot of events and socializing is around food. And if you go to those social events and it's not time for you to eat, how are you going to handle the situation? So it could be very difficult for many people to get on this eating plan and then to follow it over the long term. It can be very difficult to stick with this type of eating schedule, and it can lead to a high dropout rate.
Now, you mentioned that you saw where there are so many influencers out there doing it. I saw I love to read books. There are over 30 books from Jen Stevens on this diet. There's also romance authors that center their books around this diet. Do you think that we see these influences in these books that are from healthcare providers and romance novelists and say, okay, they recommend it, must be good. They write in a book, why would they put in a book if it wasn't true? You see the influencer, you see how they look, and you're like, ooh, I can do this. You see all these characters, they find love through this diet. So it must be okay, I can do it. How can we change this perception?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, there are those influencers and authors are, people that we want to trust and believe in. To change this mindset, we need to really promote critical thinking in individuals. Emphasize the scientific evidence over the anecdotes that these individuals may be putting out there. And of course, always consulting healthcare professionals such as registered dietitian nutritionists before making any kind of change to our diet. one really needs to take a look at their whole health history to evaluate whether or not intermittent fasting could be helpful or if it could be harmful to that individual.
Now, you mentioned fatigue. How can we go about dealing with the fatigue that we may feel in this diet?
Yeah, so fatigue, to combat fatigue, it's really all about, first and foremost, hydration. Drinking plenty of water, because dehydration can really make fatigue worse, especially during the time that one is fasting. A good rule of thumb is to aim for about half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Sleep. Fatigue can be exacerbated by poor sleep. So consider scheduling earlier bedtimes or incorporating short power naps in your day to recharge yourself. Also exercise, light exercise such as stretching, walking, yoga, really can help boost yoga energy levels and combat fatigue. And of course, always, if you're really struggling with fatigue or other side effects from intermittent fasting, discuss it with your doctor or your other healthcare provider. And maybe there's a way to modify the intermittent fasting plan to be able to make it work for you, but just on some other eating schedule.
Now, I saw this can also slow down aging and help reduce our risk of chronic diseases. How?
Yeah, restricting calories can reduce cellular damage and help maintain healthy DNA, which of course are two factors in fighting aging. And so there could be some beneficial changes that occur at our cellular level when we're in that fasting state, whether it's temporary or intermittent. It can also help with decreasing inflammation within our body. And the inflammation is what drives or could potentially drive the development of chronic diseases. It may also prevent cell damage due to unstable molecules or free radicals. And it can also help us to lose weight and that good old abdominal fat, which can then improve our overall health and prevent chronic diseases.
Our next diet is detox. Are you tired of feeling sluggish and dreaming of the magical cleanse to reset your body? I know a lot. I've done those cleanses. My doctor told me, like cleaning your house, you need to cleanse your body. The detox diet, with its promise of flushing toxins and boosting your glow, sounds like a dream, but is it fact or fiction?
Yeah, there's a lot of variety of detox diets out there that promise to flush out toxins, cleanse our body, boost energy, and even promote weight loss. Generally, these are considered to be fad diets, mostly because there's no scientific basis to support the claims that are being made. Our body is an incredible thing. We have a highly effective detox system already called our liver, our kidneys, our lungs, and even our skin. So there's really no scientific evidence that detox diets actually enhance or can take the place of these natural processes that are occurring on a daily basis.
So how can we cleanse our body with these and get energy?
By eating, a proper diet, we are able to allow our lungs, our kidneys, our skin, and liver to do what they were designed to do. So keeping our overall health of our body where it needs to be by following an appropriate, well-balanced diet will ensure that we have detoxification going on a routine basis.
Is there one flushing that this diet really focuses on? So how do we flush, as they call it?
A lot of these detox diets want you to cleanse the colon and eliminate waste and toxins through things like colon cleansing, by encouraging bowel movements, using laxatives or enemas, using colon hydrotherapy or colonics has been used. But really, again, getting back to the fact that, why would you want to put yourself through all of these extra steps when your body is already doing this for you with the detoxification that is occurring? And most of these detox diets are really short-term in nature. You're probably going to do the detox maybe for one day, maybe a couple times a week. There's really no long-term focus to detox diets. It's really just a short-term. You're not changing eating habits. You're not necessarily increasing your exercise or physical activity. So there's just really no strong scientific evidence to say that by detoxing, you're going to lose weight or you're going to improve your overall health in the short term or the long term.
Now, the next diet sounds like it would be my favorite because you get to eat like a caveman. The paleo diet takes you back to the Stone Age, where it's all about chowing down on whole foods. Think juicy meats, vibrant veggies, nuts and fruits, while you ditch grains, dairy, and processed junk. It's a trendy plan, hype for weight loss and vitality, and it promises to sync your body with its ancient roots. But is it? a fad?
Paleo diet, as you said, it's based on eating like our ancient ancestors, really focusing on eating whole, unprocessed foods like lean meats, seafood, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and eggs. The diet can be very restrictive and imbalanced because there's an elimination of entire food groups, such as the grains and the dairy products. And of course, this can then lead to nutritional gaps and potential deficiencies in things like fiber, some of the B vitamins, and of course, calcium, which can then in turn impact our overall health.
Now, I always thought our ancestors ate leafy greens and things like that. So what foods are considered safe to eat on this diet?
So again, the paleo diet really focusing on the whole unprocessed foods like lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, avoiding the grains, dairy, and any processed food. A key factor is focused on meal preparation, such as prioritizing grilling, as it's considered a natural cooking method that aligns with the diet's focus on simple, unprocessed foods.
Maillard reaction, chemistry.
Yes, chemistry. And, how sustainable is this for one over the long term? Because again, when we're eating, we want to be able to do it for our lifetime. So, this certainly would be something that would be appealing to individuals. But again, they would have to be careful with regards to, if they're not going to be eating grains or dairy products, how are they going to get some of those vitamins and minerals that their body does need? They would need to, make some adjustments.
So you mentioned that we do grilling, but is this sustainable over long term?
Again, it would depend on the individual. You'd have to look at your lifestyle. You could run into situations again with social settings where you're not able to follow the paleo diet due to events that you may be participating in. And so many people, like with any so-called diet, they do it for a short period of time and then they revert back to, the way that they were eating prior to trying the diet.
What do you guys think? Do you think we should be eating the paleo way like our ancestors?
Just to let you know, according to the Mayo Clinic staff, they have done genetic research that shows that we have evolved, our bodies have evolved from the way our ancestors used to eat, including things like the way our genes are expressed related to the breakdown or digestion of starches and grains and lactose in milk. So there may not be a viable argument for eating this way anymore as a result of, the evolution that has occurred in the human body. So something to think about.
Our next diet is the Mediterranean diet. This is a savoring plant-based diet. Think olive oil drizzled veggies, fresh fish, whole grains, maybe a splash of red wine. You're twirling your pasta with tomatoes or nibbling almonds under an olive tree while boosting your heart and longevity. This lifestyle is hailed for its science-backed benefits, promises a delicious path to wellness. But is this a timeless health hero or just a trendy vacation vibe?
Yeah, so this diet is generally not considered a fad. It's backed by science. It's one of the most studied dietary patterns actually in the world. And the research has shown consistently that by using this eating plan, one is able to lower their risk of heart disease, reduce the risk of stroke, reduce the risk of diabetes, and even some cancers such as of the digestive tract. And this eating pattern is balanced and it's sustainable. We're not cutting out any entire food group. We're not requiring extreme rules. It's very flexible, making it, you can make it fit to whatever lifestyle that you may have.
What are some of the foods we see on the diet? What makes it so wonderful with these foods? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it tends to be a plant-based diet, including a wide variety of fresh produce like your dark leafy greens, citrus fruits, berries, and a wide array of vegetables. Also, whole grains are included like oats, brown rice, barley, whole wheat, breads, and pastas. They're definitely staples. As far as protein, using a lot of beans, lentils, chickpeas, as well as things like nuts and seeds. As far as the animal-based products on this diet, it would little bit different from the general American diet, really focusing in on things like fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, tuna, and mackerel, including things like chicken and turkey, eggs, and dairy products, but really cutting out only maybe once a month, including red meats like beef, pork, and or lamb. And of course, using the extra virgin olive oil, because this eating pattern does believe that's one of the best sources of fat in our diet, as well as avocados. Avocado pops up again here, including avocados that can, add color and flavor. And of course, as Melissa said, topping it off with a little red wine in moderation, that definitely can be a nice addition.
Why extra virgin olive oil between regular olive oil, extra virgin? Is there?
It's the way that it's been processed. And so it's got the highest grade. It's extracted from the first pressing of the olives without heat or chemicals. And so it's going to have a richer flavor, and it's going to have a higher nutrient content as a result of that. And so if one can find the extra virgin olive oil, or in some cases afford it, it's definitely the way to go.
Are there any particular habits we should have on this diet? A certain time to eat, a certain way to prepare the food, certain foods for certain meals? What about snacks? Can we do those?
Yes, absolutely. Snacks are always good. Again, doing things like Harriet had mentioned that he's doing. Nuts and seeds are always good for snacks. Other plant-based foods like beans and lentils can be used as snacks. Cheese, because cheese is a part of the Mediterranean diet, like goat cheese, feta cheese, or mozzarella cheese, or even yogurt. I know a lot of people like that Greek yogurt that's out there too. And when it comes to a snack, a snack can be anything to anybody. A snack could be, like a really small meal as well. So the Mediterranean diet doesn't really put any restrictions about when you eat or how much you eat or anything like that. But the way the culture in the Mediterranean region, they really do enjoy sitting down and eating with other people. And that's one of the focuses with regards to the Mediterranean eating pattern. It definitely helps when you can talk with other people and enjoy your meal, something we probably don't do enough in the United States. And also their lifestyle. The lifestyle in the Mediterranean, definitely a lot of physical activity. Maybe not specifically going to a gym to exercise, but definitely getting out and doing physical activity, as well as reducing stress. That's one thing we could all learn to work on, is to reduce the stress in our lives.
Now, they do eat late at night. So what do they eat late at night that's okay on this diet? Because I've noticed that when a friend of mine comes over from Italy, she'll eat at 8 or 9 at night for dinner.
Right. And it really depends on, again, one's lifestyle. It's generally not recommended to eat late at night, specifically like if you eat at 8 or 9 and then you go to bed at 10. But you have to look at, what time does your friend actually, lay down to go to sleep. Maybe it's not until midnight. So it would really depend on the person's, schedule and what their lifestyle is.
And what's the best way to prepare your foods for this? Or is there...
Usually, getting back to the lower fat methods such as grilling, roasting, steaming, or even sauteing with that olive oil are generally going to be recommended. Not doing heavy frying and not doing, a lot of highly processed sauces on the food.
Are there any questions? Any comments? Any thoughts? Would you guys have any challenges with these diets? Mediterranean? I know I would have a hard time with the fruits and vegetables ones. I admit it. I don't do fruits and vegetables well.
Yeah, it can be challenging to get fruits and vegetables, especially, with accessibility. Depending on where you go to buy your food, you may not have an option to get, fresh fruits and vegetables that you can incorporate into your diet. So it can make it really difficult.
Any questions? Any thoughts? So Lori has looked at several diets, and she's looked and sliced through all the hype, and she's debunked the fleeting fads. So we've learned that quick fixes often fade, but balanced, evidence-based eating, like the Mediterranean vibe, can shine for life. Now it's your turn. Have these diets sparked epic wins, epic flops? Do you see yourself doing them? And thank you for joining us. Eat smart and keep separating fact from fiction on your diets. Thanks, guys.